There have been 36 combat clashes between the Ukrainian Defence Forces and the Russian Army on 5 fronts during the course of the 7th of July. Source: General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Information is of 6 o'clock on the 8th of July. Quote: The Russian Federation launched another attack using Iranian-made Shahed attack drones tonight. Information about the aftermath of the Russian terrorist attack is being confirmed. During the past day, the Russian occupying forces also attacked the territory of Ukraine with Iranian Shahed attack drones. 12 out of 18 of these UAVs were shot down. Apart from that, the enemy launched a missile attack on the territory of one of the Zaporizhzhia infrastructure facilities. Also, 53 airstrikes and about 60 attacks from multiple launch rocket systems on the positions of our troops and settlements were observed. Unfortunately, infrastructure facilities were destroyed, and civilians were affected. The probability of missile and air strikes throughout Ukraine remains high. The enemy continues to focus its main efforts on the Kupiansk, Lyman, Bakhmut, Avdiivka and Marinka fronts. There were 36 combat clashes over the last day. Details: The operational situation on the Volyn and Polishcha fronts remains much the same as before. No signs of the formation of offensive groups have been spotted. Certain units of the armed forces of Belarus are performing tasks in the areas bordering Ukraine. On the Severshchina and Slobozhenshchina fronts, Russian forces conducted an airstrike on the city of Vilshana, Kharkiv Oblast, and deployed mortars and artillery to attack more than 15 settlements, including Popivka, Chernihiv Oblast, Krasnopilya, Sumy Oblast, and Oka, Neskuchny, Vovchansk, Budarki and Rubel, Kharkiv Oblast. On the Kupiansk front, Russian forces tried to advance near Novoselivsky and Stelmakivka, Luhansk Oblast. Ukraine's defense forces continued to hold the defense and repelled all Russian attacks. Kolodiansk, Novomlinsk, Vorokna, Zapadna, Mashativka, Kupiansk and Kyslivka, Kharkiv Oblast came under artillery and mortar fire. On the Lyman front, during the day, Russian forces conducted offensive operations and tried to dislodge Ukraine's troops from their occupied positions in the area northwest of Berestov, Luhansk Oblast, but had no success. On the Bakhmut front, under heavy fire from Russian aviation and artillery, Ukrainian defenders successfully repelled 9 Russian attacks in the area of Berkivka, Donetsk Oblast. At the same time, Russian forces launched airstrikes in the areas of Bodanivka, Klashivka, Oleksandro Shultin, Bila Hora, Kurdiamivka and Pivden. More than 20 settlements, including Vasyukivka, Bodanivka, Ivanovsky, Klashivka, Oleksandro Shultin, Bila Hora and Delivka, Donetsk Oblast, were affected by artillery fire. On the Avdiivka front, Russians, with support from aircraft, carried out unsuccessful offensive operations in the areas of Novokulinov, Avdiivka, and Nevelsky. At the same time, an artillery shelling of 15 settlements, including Karamek, Zelane, Avdiivka, Severn, Karlivka, Pervomaysk and Nevelsky, Donetsk Oblast was observed. Despite Russian artillery shelling on the Marinka front, Ukraine's defense forces repelled all Russian assaults in the vicinity of Marinka. Russians launched an airstrike near Krasnohorivka, Donetsk Oblast, and shelled the settlements of Krasnohorivka, Marinka, and Pobidat, Donetsk Oblast. On the Shtarsk front, Russian forces made unsuccessful offensive actions near Blahodatna, Donetsk Oblast, and conducted an airstrike in the vicinity of Glika Novosilka. They also attacked more than 15 settlements, including Yelizavetivka, Bohoyavlenka, Buladar, Zolotaniva and Severn, Donetsk Oblast. Russian forces on the Zaporizhzhia and Kherson fronts are focusing their main efforts on preventing the advance of Ukrainian forces. They shelled over 40 settlements, including Novodorivka, Lavadna, Malinivka, Huliaipol, Zalizniknik, Zaporizhzhia Oblast, Elvov, Tokarivka, Antonivka, Velitensk, Kizimyz, Kherson Oblast, and the city of Kherson. At the same time, the Ukrainian Defence Forces continue to advance on the Melitopol and Berdyansk fronts, and they are strengthening their positions in new locations, inflicting fire damage, and carrying out counter-battery countermeasures. Over the past day, Ukrainian aircraft carried out 7 airstrikes on areas where Russian military personnel were concentrated, 4 on anti-aircraft defense systems and 1 more on a command post. Apart from that, Ukraine's defenders shot down 2 reconnaissance operational tactical UAVs. Units from Ukraine's rocket forces and artillery struck 2 command posts, an ammunition storage point, 8 artillery systems at their firing positions, 2 air defense systems, and 2 electronic warfare stations. Armed forces of Ukraine advance and gain ground on the Melitopol and Berdyansk fronts, General Staff report. Almost 20 combat clashes with the occupiers took place during the day. Ukrainian defenders continue to advance on the Melitopol and Berdyansk fronts, and reinforce their positions at the reached frontiers. Source: General Staff. Quote, "The enemy is concentrating its main efforts on the Kupiansk, Lyman, Bakhmut, Avdiivka, and Marinska fronts. Heavy battles are ongoing." About 20 armed clashes took place during the day. The armed forces of Ukraine continue to conduct an offensive operation on the Melitopol and Berdyansk fronts, gain ground at the reached frontiers, inflict artillery fire on identified enemy targets, and carry out counter-battery measures. Details: At night, the Russians attacked the territory of Ukraine with Iranian drones. The defenders managed to destroy 12 out of 18 UAVs. In addition, the occupiers launched a missile attack on the territory of one of the Zaporizhia infrastructure facilities. They also carried out 42 airstrikes and about 30 missile strikes with multiple rocket launchers on the positions of Ukrainian troops and settlements. The Russians maintain a military presence on the Severshina and Slobozhanshina fronts. During the day, they carried out an airstrike on the settlement of Vilshana of Kharkiv Oblast. They carried out mortar and artillery bombardments of more than 15 settlements in Chernihiv and Kharkiv Oblasts. On the Kupiansk front, the Russian forces tried to advance in the settlements of Novoselivsky and Stelmakivka, Luhansk Oblast. Ukrainian defenders repelled all their attacks. On the Lyman front, during the day, the occupiers conducted assaults and tried to dislodge the defenders from the occupied territories in the northwest of the settlement of Berestov, Luhansk Oblast, without success. They carried out airstrikes in the areas of Bilohorivka in Luhansk Oblast and Spern in Donetsk Oblast. More than 10 settlements in Luhansk and Donetsk Oblasts were damaged by artillery fire. On the Bakhmut front, the occupiers carried out airstrikes in the settlements of Bodanivka, Oleksandro-Shultin, Bilahora, and Pivnikny. More than 15 settlements in Donetsk Oblast were damaged by Russian artillery shelling. On the Avdiivka front, the Russians, with the support of aviation, carried out unsuccessful offensive operations in the areas in and around Novokulinov, Avdiivka, and Nevelski, Donetsk Oblast. At the same time, they shelled more than 15 settlements. The General Staff of Ukraine's armed forces reported on July 8 that Russia has lost 233,440 troops in Ukraine since the beginning of its full-scale invasion on February 24 last year. This number includes 630 casualties Russian forces sustained just over the past day.